Malcolm, who's calling in from California. Malcolm, last time we talked, we had, I would say, an interesting conversation, and I'd like to see what you have for me today. What's going on, Malcolm? Hello, Malcolm. Are you there?
Hello.
There we go. Hey,
so this is just kind of going back to my theory about how the languages were influenced by another species that would look similar to an eel or snake. And
yes, and that God himself is an eel, or at least we base eels off of God, correct?
Does that mean that God is tubular in some way?
It's not that...
in case you're listening to this for the first time, welcome to Truth Wanted. These are the conversations we like to have on this program. It's really great. Malcolm, go ahead.
I look forward to this one.
Okay, so a simple example would be the anguis is snake in Latin, and then angelus is angel in Latin.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you again, but I feel like this is kind of what we talked about before, and I think we kind of already discussed that, hey, just because, there's similarities to languages in how you can make these connections to words, I don't think studying the etymology of different languages gets you any truth claims about reality other than what those words say. I don't think they actually just... Yeah, they're just signifiers to something else. That signifiers don't even necessarily prove the existence of something. I could call something a gobbledygook, and there's my signifier for it. But that doesn't mean the gobbledygook exists, And so we say the same thing. We have all these words for eel. Maybe they relate to divine beings or whatever. That doesn't say anything about the actual existence of those divine beings, right?
It's the most compelling coincidence within the languages. So
I don't think so. I think you can find some really
you got a series of like the most popular languages. You got isolated languages that end up comparing God and angel to snakes or eels.
Did you know you can find the word pineapple? It's almost it's like ano in most languages, some variation of it, almost over 50 different languages. In fact, English is the only one that calls it pineapple. It's amazing, right?
The reason why this one is the most compelling or the most...
hold on, wait, Malcolm. I just want you to acknowledge my pineapple thing, right? That's amazing, right? We have tons of languages that can all say something about pineapple. And they're all using the same word for it.
Where do they come from?
They come from
the same place.
Different languages of people develop the words at different times. Obviously they can't trace the exact origins, but they seem to be, independently developed at different locations.
And language itself evolves.
Isn't that interesting? Now, what does that say about pineapples? Are they divine beings that exist outside of space and time and have some sort of metaphysical property? I don't think so.
It's how they end up on pizza.
We have
like you're kind of misrepresenting the
maybe
of mine.
Maybe, Malcolm, but we have a million different words, more than that, and there's going to be coincidences in languages. I don't know how that proves anything.
Well, it's enough. There's enough of this coincidence because it's the largest coincidence within the languages. It's better than pineapple, and the explanation for pineapple is actually probably because it came from the same location.
Are you saying you know that for a fact, or are you just saying probably? I think I've researched the word pineapple more.
I think you have.
You research where they came.
I didn't know that.
From, then.
Yeah, and again, I already told you they come independently from different locations. I'm spitting you some facts here. You need to look at some pineapple stuff. But regardless, look,
come from
let's say you're
okay.
Let's say that. Well, yeah. Let's say this, Malcolm. Let's say you're right. Let's say that this is the biggest coincidence of the languages, that the word eel happens to, come across in all these different places, or we have similar meanings for eel, right? Not exactly the word eel. You get what I'm saying. The signifier is there. So what? What do we do with that? What does that tell us about the world?
Well, it would show that there is something that you could possibly get to the bottom of in the here and now, and that it's more worthy to prioritize and spend more time investigating such a premise because of the naturalistic explanation. We could talk about God claims and souls and ultimates or whatever.
How do we determine, Malcolm?
Finding that out.
So sorry to interrupt you again, but how do we determine, Malcolm, the difference between, a divine purpose, a divine plan versus coincidence? What do we need? What's the criteria? How do we figure that out?
Well, one piece of why it's because of the highest coincidence, and let me explain why it's also the highest coincidence here. It's because of the pharynx of the eel and then the tongue retraction of the snake. So there's a school of phonetics here. So when you speak, you have to use M, or you have to use your lips to pronounce like a M or a P or a B. So when you take the Japanese word for snake and then the Japanese word for God, you can see that there's a phonetic similarity.
Okay. What you're telling me, Malcolm, you're telling me another observation from your research, and that's great, but that has nothing to do with the question I asked. The question I asked was, how do we determine the difference between coincidence and intention? Because that's an interesting question, and I want to know how we do that.
I agree.
Well, the intention, it would have to be a deduced or something, because what I just said about the phonetics and how both of the physiology of the mouth of the snake and the eel is something that only like a human who speaks would be able to ever recognize. So if there was any sort of thing that was placed in the languages, this would be it.
Why couldn't a human? I want Nathaniel to give a point too, but why can't a human just look at a snake, see that it sticks out its tongue, and make a little lisp sound to call it that because it's just mimicking the snake? Like I can think of it. That's just one reason why somebody would make, use that lisp sound for describing, right? Like, that's a totally natural reason. But it is
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how you fluctuate, how you articulate within your mouth or whatever. And there isn't an S sound within the Japanese word for snake or God. It actually there's ones that you have to use your throat.
We're losing our trail.
Like, it's a different language from English.
I don't know. Nathaniel's ready to burst. I want him to say his piece so he doesn't explode.
I do too.
Yeah, go first.
No. Yeah, I have all the point that I have.
Snakes can't talk, dude. First off, and secondly, if we get we can't unhinge our jaws either.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, that's a fair point. Somebody's going to get that.
I don't think you understand my point.
Well, no, but just because, look, the Egyptians thought that cats were gods, and so do most atheistic Americans.
Well, I want to give Malcolm, his fair due here. I think his point is more there so that there's linguistic similarities to words used to describe divine beings and snakes.
Congratulations.
Right.
You're looking for a pattern. And I get that because we are pattern-seeking mammals.
It's true.
I understand that. This is no different than seeing a puppy dog in the clouds. And you have assigned a purpose behind them when, in fact, it may just be, and apparently, as far as we can tell, a coincidence. And we'd have to, I think that for you, it'd be just to provide how we're able to tell. And not only that, but why? Why don't you just tell us?
So Malcolm, in order to convince us, before you say anything else, in order to convince us, you have to show us, because we're incredulous that what you're presenting. First of all, I haven't done all the research you have. I don't even know if what you're saying is true. But given that what you're saying is true about these connections between these interpolations of language, we have to determine what's coincidence and what's intention. And until we have a method, until we can at least lay some groundwork for that, then this conversation isn't going to go anywhere, because anything could be coincidence and anything could be intention unless we have some way of figuring it out. I know, it's interesting how they've done studies on this, Malcolm, because there's been scandals with people who've won lottery tickets multiple times, because it seems ridiculous that somebody could win multiple times. And there's been investigations in the government, but it turns out stuff just happens sometimes, even though it doesn't seem like it, it seems crazy, but we live in a crazy world where things do happen. And, until we can use it to figure it out, if you can answer this question for me, that's great. But, I'll give you one more chance to kind of go forward with this
answer question, but I kind of got lost when you were talking about the lottery exactly. You want
sure.
Me to
so again, intention
forth,
versus coincidence.
Actual evidence, like actual proof. I mean, I like to bring forth as evidence, and evidence can't convince everybody because it's not proof, but there's
but the problem is the evidence is circumstantial, Malcolm. It's circumstantial, and that means that there are circumstances that could bring about that's not what circumstantial exactly means, but basically it's it can occur naturally without intent happening.
And also there's
I could see how it could possibly happen just randomly. It's kind of the largest coincidence anyway, but
sure.
If there was anything to look forward,
well, there has to be a largest coincidence.
Further, that would be it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but there has to be a largest coincidence, right? That has to exist.
Yeah, the paramount.
Right.
It's gonna happen. So anyway, I think Nathaniel had one more thing to say, and then I want to go ahead and wrap up this call.
Sure. It's really two things. One is a joke. So also evidence leads to conclusions, and the way that we're able to figure that out is that multiple independent sources lead to the same conclusion, right? And this is the first time I've heard this. Now, numerology, right? How many people look into things that have happened historically, and then they figure out that this is when 9/11 was going to happen. Mind you, that's always after the fact. But also, so I think there's that. But also, should point out we are both Slytherin, so there may be something to your point.
Well, listen, hey, you guys can figure it out. Use your parcel tongue. Go ask your local snake and see if there's anything going on there, right? That would be convincing. But anyway, Malcolm,
that was a joke.
Could I say something about
You've got 30 seconds.
The politics that you guys were talking about earlier?
39. Oh, okay, yeah. If it's about politics, yeah, real quick. Go ahead.
Okay, so I noticed within the elections that the front runner that loses never ends up running again. So Hillary never runs again. Mitt Romney never runs again. McCain's dead, but he never ran again. Al Gore didn't run again. Kerry didn't run again. And this goes on and on and on. So it's almost like if you're a human and you recognize these patterns, it's like Rocky losing in the first movie and then never fighting again. So all these people, for as long as we lived, the front runner that loses never runs again.
Sure, but there's a reason.
Do you find that pattern?
Yes, but there's tons of reasons. For one, a presidential campaign is very expensive and very time consuming. And I imagine that somebody who's already lost once, chances are isn't as confident in themselves to do it again. And also, technically that's not true because Joe Biden is running again. And granted, I guess he won the first time. Maybe. But he wasn't the front runner, but I mean, he was on the.
Comes down to the two.
Okay, so you're right there. Maybe he wasn't a front runner, but I haven't looked up at it.
People do run again, but not if they're the front runner. And
maybe so, Malcolm. But again, there's natural explanations as to why this could be. It doesn't have to be a divine intent, right? It doesn't have to be. something mystical. I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, Malcolm. But thanks again for calling in. And next time, I want you to bring something new to the table because I feel like it's almost a repeat of last time. But
I can give. I was like counting examples of where that happened.
And Mitt
I'm trying to think.
Still serving Hillary Clinton just because she.
Yeah, Richard Nixon, by the way.
Oh yeah. Okay, there you go. Yeah, Nixon would be one.
Yeah, Nixon did. Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson. Point is,
multiple examples of this actually happening.
Yeah.
But also, one could say, is that not the case with the Senate and with the United States House of Representatives, where somebody comes in and they lose, even though they're the front runner, but then they run again 2 or 4 years, or 2 or 6 years later, and they win.
There's a woman in West Virginia. There's a woman in West Virginia, Paula Jean Swearingen.
Yeah.
She was the front runner. She did not win. She's currently running.
Well, maybe he just means presidents of the United States. But think about this: like the lame duck, right? The sitting president always has the advantage. Always has the advantage statistically. That's shown out. And so if you're planning on running again, that's going to be the next. That's another 4 years that has to pass by, and then you're evaluating your chances. You're probably not going to win. There's some other person that wants to take it. There's more people that want to become president that are going to want it and take it. So there's tons of reasons why. But we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and go
Yeah.
Yeah. There's tons of different reasons, but I want to go ahead and go to the next call here.